It began like a whisper, a murmur buried in the chaos of celebrity gossip. But then, 50 Cent opened his mouth, and the internet froze. Did he just confirm that Kanye West, yes, that Kanye, might have been cloned? Buckle up, because this is not just another celebrity rumor. This is a story of disappearance, manipulation, and a man who may not even be who he says he is. For months, Kanye vanished from the public eye, gone, silent, like a ghost retreating from the spotlight after his explosive controversies burned every bridge in sight. But when he returned, something felt different. The wild spark that once lit up Twitter wars and live interviews? Gone. No chaos, no rants, no fire. Just eerie calm. The same man who once declared himself a god was now whispering through shadows, smiling politely. Fans were not buying it. And then came the bombshell. 50 Cent, never one to hold his tongue, supposedly claimed Kanye had been kidnapped. That the man walking around now was not the same we knew. Imagine hearing that from one of the most outspoken rappers alive. The internet exploded. Comment sections turned into digital battlegrounds. He is cloned. No, it is all PR. Wake up, people. The timelines turned into war zones of speculation and disbelief. Rewind to late 2022, right after Kanye's massive public meltdown that got him cancelled across industries. That is when he disappeared. No appearances. No statements. Just silence. Then, in early 2023, boom, he reappeared. But the energy had shifted. His eyes looked the same, but empty. His voice, slower. His body language, subdued. Fans started posting side-by-side videos, comparing his mannerisms, his smile, even his walk. Something was off, and they knew it. That is when Orlando Brown jumped in with his signature brand of chaos, claiming that the new Kanye was a clone, that his appearance had subtle but suspicious changes. Theories flooded TikTok and YouTube: clone labs, government replacement, industry puppets. What had started as a joke suddenly started feeling disturbingly plausible. Then came her. Bianca Censori. A woman no one had ever heard of before, appearing overnight as Kanye's wife. The internet blinked. Who is she? Where did she come from? Why did she suddenly seem inseparable from him, silent, robotic, almost like a handler? Dig a little deeper, and the story gets darker. Bianca had been working for Yeezy since 2020 as the head of architecture, hidden in plain sight. Their romance supposedly blossomed from a professional relationship, but people were not buying it. The speed, the secrecy, the timing, it all screamed orchestration. And then, just like that, she became his other half. Fans began to notice another strange pattern: how Kanye's partners always transform under his influence. Remember how he completely reshaped Kim Kardashian's image? He stripped away her flashy looks, gave her a sleek, minimalist aesthetic, and called it a creative reinvention. But now, it is the complete opposite. Bianca steps out in barely their outfits, defying everything Kanye once preached about modesty and cultural respect. People began asking, who is controlling who? Has Kanye changed, or has the clone malfunctioned? Because how do you go from covering Kim up, to having Bianca show everything? And just when the world thought it could not get any stranger, 50 Cent lit the fuse again. His cryptic posts and interviews started aligning with the whispers. Fans began to connect dots that maybe were never meant to be connected. Was this all a part of something much bigger, an industry cover-up, a social experiment, or the unthinkable, a man replaced to silence the chaos he once unleashed? The internet may laugh at conspiracy theories, but history has taught us one thing: truth often hides behind the things we call crazy. And then it happened, the moment that made the entire internet freeze. Kanye West, the man who publicly disowned Balenciaga, the man who called them out by name after their disturbing scandal, was suddenly spotted shopping there. Strolling through the store like nothing ever happened. Cameras flashing. Bianca by his side. Smiling. The man who once declared Balenciaga cancelled forever was back under their lights, surrounded by their logos. And that is when the whispers turned into screams. Fans flooded timelines with disbelief. No way, that is Kanye. The real you would never. Because everyone remembered, the old Kanye stood on principles. He was messy, sure, but he believed in something. He burned bridges for what he thought was right. But this felt wrong. This felt like betrayal, or worse, like someone pretending to be him, but slipping up. Because let us be honest, when has the real Kanye ever played nice with the same machine he once tried to destroy? Then came another shockwave. News broke that Kanye was planning to buy Parler, the so-called free speech platform owned by Candace Owens's husband. At first, it sounded like something Kanye might do. But the deeper fans thought about it, the stranger it seemed. Why would this man, the rebel, the rule-breaker, the self-proclaimed visionary, need to buy a platform just to speak freely? The Kanye we knew never needed permission. He was the platform. He was the controversy. He was the microphone. So this sudden business move felt off-script, calculated, artificial. It was like someone was building a version of Kanye who could exist within corporate limits, a more manageable Ye. Then, just as the internet was starting to move on, 50 Cent walked into the chat like a wrecking ball. He did not just throw shade, he dropped allegations that shattered the room. According to 50's inside sources, the man we are seeing right now is not Kanye at all. He claimed that after the anti-Semitic controversies, the ones that tanked Kanye's endorsements and made him a ghost, Kanye was not just hiding. He was taken, kidnapped, replaced, cloned. Let that sink in for a second. The idea that one of the most unpredictable, outspoken artists alive had been copied, his body, his face, his movements, and that the replica was now walking among us, performing for cameras. And suddenly, the pieces started fitting in twisted ways. The physical differences. The shift in his voice. The sudden marriage to Bianca. The eerie calm. The coldness. 50 even pointed out the moral contradiction. The Kanye we knew never objectified women. He protected them. He shielded them. Who could forget the time he flew across the country just to retrieve Kim Kardashian's private tapes himself? Paid for them. Hand-delivered them. That was the Kanye who fought for the people he loved. The one who stood up for family, faith, and self-worth even when the world mocked him. So when fans saw this new Kanye parading Bianca around in barely their outfits, the same man who once preached modesty and protection, they could feel it deep down. This was not evolution. This was replacement. And just when you thought the rabbit hole could not go any deeper, 50 dropped another bombshell. He claimed that the whole Kanye battling porn addiction story, the one plastered across headlines for months, was a lie. A narrative, he said, designed to distract the public. A cover-up for something darker. According to 50, Kanye never struggled with that at all. The story was fabricated to make his erratic behavior look like personal weakness instead of evidence of manipulation. It was all part of the illusion, a smokescreen to make the audience sympathize while the puppet strings were being tightened. And here's where it gets terrifying. 50 went further, saying entire teams were assigned to rewrite the narrative in real time. Every viral moment. Every breakdown. Every public apology. All crafted by handlers and executives behind closed doors, turning the chaos into clicks. They turned him into something the world can sell, 50 said. Not someone who can heal. And that line hit millions of fans like a punch to the gut. Because for the first time, it all made sense. The energy, the silence, the fake smiles, Kanye had become a product. A man stripped of his soul, replaced by a story the industry could monetize. It is not just a conspiracy anymore. It is a tragedy. There are moments when you scroll through an old interview of Kanye West and feel your chest tighten. The way he smiled when he talked about his mother, Donda. The way his eyes lit up when he spoke about turning pain into art. That spark, that raw, unpredictable genius, it used to radiate off him like light from a broken star. He was eccentric, yes, but he was alive. And now, when you look at the man who walks beside Bianca Censori, it feels like watching a hologram, a version of Kanye trapped in someone else's performance, repeating lines he never wrote. Fans started connecting the dots, building digital timelines like detectives chasing ghosts. Some say the shift began the day Donda passed, that losing her cracked something inside him that never healed. Others point to 2016, when Kanye was hospitalized after that infamous breakdown. They swear that when he came back, he was not the same. His tone changed. His rhythm slowed. His spark dimmed. It was like he was trapped between worlds, one where he remembered who he used to be, and another where the industry kept erasing him piece by piece. And that is where 50 Cent's claims hit like lightning. Because his words did not just sound like gossip, they sounded like accusation. A mirror held up to Hollywood's darkest truth. How many of our idols are even real anymore? How many stories are built in boardrooms, sculpted in headlines, and sold back to us as authenticity? If Kanye's porn addiction narrative truly was fabricated, as 50 suggested, then it is not just manipulation, it is marketing through misery. A way to humanize him just enough to make us pity him, while still keeping him chaotic enough to trend. Then came Bianca. The muse, the mystery, the storm. Every photo felt staged. Every appearance, a scene from a movie that none of us remembered auditioning for. The revealing outfits, the barefoot walks, the eerie stillness, fans could not decide whether it was performance art or a cry for help. Because this was not just fashion anymore. This was control. This was power. This was image, stripped, reconstructed, monetized. The same man who once called out the industry for objectifying women was now parading his wife in clothes that barely existed. It felt backwards, like watching a protest turn into a spectacle. And the strangest part? Kanye looked peaceful. Too peaceful. As if the fire had been replaced with fog. As if he was no longer fighting for anything, or maybe, not even fighting as himself. Bianca followed beside him, silent, unbothered, unreadable. Fans could not tell if she was a partner or a prop. Was she protecting him, or performing beside his replacement? Videos began surfacing, Kanye walking barefoot through Italian streets, Bianca wrapped in sheer fabric like a living statue, bystanders whispering in disbelief. The images felt more like surveillance footage than celebrity content, haunting, theatrical, unsettling. The internet stopped laughing. The jokes turned into theories, and the theories began to sound almost plausible. This was not tabloid drama anymore. It was a psychological labyrinth. Then 50 Cent spoke again, and his words cracked open another layer. He hinted at something larger, a system of power using Kanye as both a puppet and a mirror. They use him 'cause they know people watch him, he said. To them, it's entertainment. To us, it's confusion. And that line stuck, because it was not just about Kanye. It was about us. When did we turn pain into prime time? When did mental health become a marketing tool? We watched his breakdowns like episodes of a show. We laughed, we analyzed, we retweeted. We called it concern, but deep down, we were entertained. Because every time Kanye unraveled, the world got louder, the clicks, the streams, the memes. It was not empathy. It was consumption. And slowly, the people around him began to vanish. Friends who once called him a brother started posting cryptic messages about energy. Collaborators went silent. Even the loyal fans, the ones who defended him through every storm, began to whisper, who are we even cheering for anymore? The beat still slapped. The art still hit. But the soul behind it? It felt disconnected. Like the rhythm had forgotten its heartbeat. And you cannot ignore how perfectly timed it all feels. Every scandal, every viral clip, every apology. One outrage dies down, another explodes. A headline fades, a new photo drops. Like someone flipping switches behind the curtain, keeping the spotlight alive just long enough to sell something new. If 50's claims are true, then none of it is coincidence. It is choreography. Every downfall, every redemption arc, planned. The chaos is not chaos, it is content. And then there is Bianca. The quiet constant. Some insiders say she is not just a wife, she is a strategy. Her background in architecture, her link to Kanye's design empire, her sudden transformation from employee to enigma, it all feels too deliberate. Too cinematic. Every move she makes feels pre-written, like a character being directed by invisible hands. The result? A love story that feels like a riddle. A man who once built empires of creativity now moving like a shadow inside someone else's empire. And maybe, that is what makes this whole saga so chilling, nothing about it feels accidental. Not the chaos. Not the calm. Not even the silence. There was a time when Kanye West built his whole identity on free thinking. He stood on stages shouting about breaking the chains, the systems, the corporations, the invisible forces that crush creativity. He said he would never be controlled. But now, watching him move through silent crowds and curated appearances, it feels like we are seeing the very prophecy he once warned us about, fulfilled on himself. The irony is chilling, the preacher of freedom now looks like the prisoner of his own mythology. The empire he created to liberate himself has begun to consume him, piece by piece. And the internet? It is doing what it does best, trying to make sense of the chaos. On one side, there are the conspiracists. They whisper about MKUltra programming, industry manipulation, brainwashing, the kind of theories that sound insane until they start making sense. Others insist this is all a performance, a massive art piece designed to expose Hollywood's hypocrisy from the inside. But then there's the darker corner of the web, the one that believes Kanye was replaced. That the man walking beside Bianca is not Ye at all, but a look-alike, a shell. They dissect photos, slow down interviews, compare jawlines, analyze his gait and speech patterns frame by frame. To outsiders, it looks obsessive. But to those who watched him for years, it is pain disguised as investigation, fans trying to prove that their hero is still somewhere out there. And through it all? Kanye says nothing. No denial. No confirmation. Just silence. And in this story, silence is not peace, it is paralysis. Because every day that passes without an answer only deepens the mystery. Did 50 Cent tell the truth? Or did he just throw gasoline on a fire that was already burning? In an industry built on illusion, who decides what is real? It is tragic when you think about it. The same man who once smiled as he talked about his mother, who dreamed about changing the world through music and architecture, is now a shadow haunting his own reflection. He used to make us believe in possibility, that genius could be chaotic and still be pure. But somewhere along the way, the narrative flipped. The visionary became the villain. The artist became the algorithm. Kanye West, the man who made the world listen, has become the headline he once mocked. Maybe that is the curse of fame, to be seen by everyone and understood by no one. And yet, part of you cannot shake the hope that there is still a plan beneath the madness. Maybe, just maybe, Kanye's silence is the setup. Maybe he is crafting something so monumental that we will look back and realize it was never chaos, it was choreography. Because if anyone could weaponize pain and turn it into art, it is him. Maybe he is exposing the machine by becoming the machine. Maybe Bianca, the controversies, the confusion, they are all puzzle pieces in a message we are not ready to decode. But hope does not erase the human cost. The Kanye who once said, "I am too busy writing history to read it," now feels like a man being written by history, rewritten, rebranded, and repackaged until the person underneath disappears entirely. The fame, the money, the headlines, they are just golden bars of a cage he built himself. And that is where 50 Cent's claims hit hardest. Because if the porn addiction story was fabricated, if that narrative was a cover for something else, then what else have we been fed? How many celebrity scandals have been smokescreens, designed to distract us from deeper manipulations? The entertainment industry thrives on chaos because chaos keeps us watching. It keeps us buying. Kanye might be the most visible victim, but he is not the first. We have seen it before: brilliant minds rise too high, speak too loudly, and suddenly lose control. Is that coincidence or consequence? Maybe 50's words will fade into the noise, buried beneath the next trending controversy. But for those paying attention, his message lingers like static. Because even if every rumor turns out false, the damage they caused is real. The doubt. The ridicule. The loss of trust. That is how control works. It does not need truth, only confusion. In the end, we are left with two versions of Kanye West. The legend, the artist who made us feel something real. And the stranger, the distant figure moving through headlines like an echo of himself. Maybe, deep down, they are still the same man fighting to coexist. The one who once shouted, "Love everyone," now lost in a world that only knows how to consume love as content. Maybe his outbursts, his chaos, his contradictions were never insanity at all. Maybe they were cries for understanding, desperate attempts to remind us there was a human being behind the spectacle. Because that is the tragedy of our time: in a world obsessed with watching, no one is really seeing. So, maybe 50 Cent is stirring the pot. Maybe he thrives on chaos. But sometimes, chaos is the only thing that shakes the truth loose. Because if Kanye truly never battled that addiction the world pinned on him, then someone out there owes him far more than an apology. They owe him his story back. They owe him his humanity. That is what makes this entire saga so haunting. Beneath the spectacle, beneath the viral clips and manic headlines, there is still a man who once believed he could change the world with sound. A man who turned heartbreak into melody, madness into poetry. A man who loved his mother so deeply that her name, Donda, became his immortal signature. That man, the real Ye, deserves to be found again. Until then, all we can do is watch and wonder. What if 50 was never lying?